crime are actually warping statistics and therefore unduly scaring the public. Well, it's the Chief Constable of West Midlands, Sir David Thompson, who told the Times newspaper that crime was being measured in a completely mad way, unquote. Indeed, recorded crime hitting last week a high of 6.5 million offences for the year, police solving the lowest proportion. But Sir David believes that the figure could be distorted, of course, with disagreements from arguments with neighbours to people's fear of violence being recorded as criminal acts. Well, let's get the views now of a former Chief Superintendent at the Met, Parm Sandhu, joining us in the studio. Thanks for your time and coming in to see us at GB News Day. I mean, he's got a point, hasn't he? Because clearly people looking at the statistics thinking, what on earth is going on there? And it could be an argument about a hedge. He
actually has got a good point, because some of the crimes that are being recorded are not crimes. They are just minor arguments or disputes. And in the past, they wouldn't have been recorded. Because if you actually look at the British Crime Survey, that shows that the crime has actually gone down, but recorded crime's gone up, which means that people fear crime and they think that there's more crime going on, when actually there isn't.
And was this done with the best intention? Because I gather this was from the Home Office, saying, look, let's just make sure we know what's going on and get the paperwork sorted out.
It was, but there's been a huge failure, because this was brought about many years ago when sexual offences were not being recorded. Right. So the Home Office made a requirement that all crimes would be recorded, so they'd all make it onto the crime reports. But that has had an adverse effect in that these crimes, they're not really crimes. They are being added to the crime sheets and the crime numbers. But it was done with the good intentions, but it has had a side effect which wasn't measured. Yeah. And what needs to happen now is that needs to be re-evaluated. And you need to look at the British Crime Survey and think, well, is this actually real?
Well, what's the real crime that's going on? I guess the other issue is it's the amount of time, then, that officers have to deal with all the paperwork and bureaucracy involved in that.
Yes, and police officers should be doing police work, but instead what they're doing is paperwork. Yeah. And it takes many, many hours to do that. And one of the other points that Sir David Thompson has made is that when you compare forces that are in special measures, such as the Met in London, where they weren't reporting all of their crimes, and you're comparing them to other forces, it's distorting the facts and the
statistics.
Yes, got stuck there. Yeah. So you can't actually do the comparison. So there are some failures there as well.
But there are particular problems, of course, when you look at inner cities, and we've talked about the Met. We've seen another incident in Brixton of a fatal shooting. Details yet to emerge as to exactly what went on. But it does appear that there is some kind of sort of arms race, that they're moving on from knife crime to guns being used increasingly. Is that fair to say?
Unfortunately, it does look like there are more guns more readily available to gangs and other individuals who want to use them. And they seem to be being smuggled across from abroad. But it doesn't mean that gun crime itself is out of control or anything like that. It's just that we're noticing more, we're reporting it more, and it makes the headlines more. Okay. But there is it's easier access to get guns at the moment, it appears.
And are they coming in from Eastern Europe then? Because we know that there was an attempt to stop the replica guns being reverse engineered as such to use them as offensive weapons.
Police officers do a lot of work against gun crime and organised criminal activities. And one of those was to limit the number of guns in this country and the use of those guns. And that work carries on. But unfortunately, there does appear to be more readiness to use them, and they are more easily accessible at the moment.
Yeah, and then, of course, we move on to the whole issue then of arming our police to cope with that, and that's another topic. Yeah. But, I mean, we should be reassured that we should still feel safe on our streets.
Absolutely, and this fear of crime is being driven by statistics that aren't real. The British Crime Survey is saying that crime has actually gone down, and that includes gun crime. Right. So I would say to people out there, do not feel fearful.
OK, and we'll